shelf.
Wow, this is a big problem. Often enough, we forget about our gutters, and gutters form an integral part of our home's roofing structure. Now, gutters come in many different shapes and sizes, but they all form a particular function. They not only remove water away from our homes, but they also protect our foundations and prevent soil erosion. So it's worthwhile to actually keep them maintained from time to time. Now you can see there's a lot of debris here, but a simple solution is either put on some gloves or get a leaf blower to remove it so that any water flow is not prohibited. Now, if you do find any birds' nests, leave them to hatch so that they leave and then remove them. If there's any wasp nests, I do recommend get a professional pest removal company to take them out, yeah? Now that the inside of our gutter system is clean from debris and dirt, it's time to pay attention to the outside. This forms a part of the look of your overall home, so it's important to keep it clean and looking good for time to come.
Using an all-purpose cleaner with an antibacterial or antifungal agent works a charm to get rid of stubborn stains.
Doesn't that look better already? With the gutters clean, we can actually now see if there's any damage or leaks that we need repairing. So for metal gutters, you may want to take some silicone and seal up once you've cleaned the rust away. But if you've got a plastic gutter, you can actually cut out a strip of the gutter and replace it with some PVC glue. If you choose to paint your gutters, make sure that you apply a primer first and then a paint that's suitable for either a metal or a plastic gutter. When I think of vertical, I think of saving space. Today we've got a great DIY project that'll help you do just that. We're making a vertical wall-mounted shelf. What you'll need for this project is a compound miter saw. I've got a set square, a pencil, a tape measure, a chisel. I'm using shutter ply wood. I've got some glue, some screws, a sander, as well as my cordless drill. So our first step will be to measure out where our shelves will go. We're going to have 3 shelves higher up. We're going to have a bigger gap in the middle and then the rest of our 3 shelves. For the first shelf, I'm going to measure exactly 150 millimeters. I'll use my set square just to get an accurate vertical measurement. And then I'm going to take the size of the wood, place it along the edge, and then mark out the other side of the shelf. I'm going to repeat that step for each of our shelves, and then we're going to recess the cuts of each shelf in order to secure them. Now, miter saw. It's time to get our recess cuts underway. Now, why I'm using a recess cut is to place our shelves into the backing board and secure from behind with a few screws and some glue. Now, I'm using a miter saw because a miter saw helps me do the recess cuts. And the way it does that is by adjusting the blade depth. Now, the way I do that is by adjusting my stop guard over here, as well as this wing nut on top. So I'm actually going to trim about halfway into the wood just to give a secure join. And then when we make the cuts, I will be cutting on the inside of the lines that we just drew for our shelves, just to ensure that we have a snug fit. And also I've placed a spacer over here at the back, just to ensure that I get a cut right through the way of my piece of wood. Remember, before we get started, safety first.
Using a miter saw, simply move the wood along after each cut. The blade ensures a clean cut and prepares a slot for the shelves to fit into.
Now that we've cut out the recess for our shelves, I'm going to take a chisel and a hammer and chisel out any imperfections. Then I'm going to move on to routering the edges of our shelves so that they're smooth to touch.
Using a round over bit, router the edges of your shelves to give the project a professional finish.
So we've got all our shelves cut now and we've routed the edges, but now it's time to sand them. What we're going to use is 80 grit sandpaper as well as 180 grit sandpaper. One is rougher, the other one is smoother, so that we have a beautiful professional look once it's done.
A random orbital sander makes light work of sanding. This type of sander moves in tiny circles, while the pad also spins. This means the sander can be used on rough wood or even for ultra-smooth sanding.
So now that all our pieces are smoothly sanded, it's time to assemble. So we take a look at our measurements. It's 300 millimeters for our shelf. Our backing plate is 200 millimeters. So we find the difference between the two, which is 100 millimeters, divide that by 2 and make a marking on our shelf. That will align it exactly in the center, which is what we want. Now that we've made the marks on our shelves, it's time to mark out our pilot holes before we drill through and secure the two together. So I'm going to be making 2 pilot holes, and I'm just going to take approximate measurements using a rule of thumb to mark out where I want them. Once I've marked them out, I can then drill them through. Remember to use a piece of scrap wood so that your shutter plywood does not split at the back. Now that all our pilot holes are done, we can start securing our shelves to the backing plate. So what we'll do is add a bead of glue, and then we'll actually use the markings we made earlier to line them up so that it's bang on center. And then we can actually secure with a couple of screws from behind. So now that we've got all our shelves in place, we need to think about how we'll secure this before we stain it. So I'm just going to turn it on its back here. And what we're going to do is actually use screws in each 4 corners to secure it to the wall. So we're going to measure out 30 millimeters from each end. As you can see, 30 millimeters from here, as well as 30 millimeters down. And that will give us an indication of where we're actually going to make our hole. So now that we've got all our securing holes in place, I've placed our piece on top of another piece of scrap wood, and I'm going to use a combination of sponge rollers. These sponge rollers help to cover a larger area, but it also just makes it easier for application. For the grooves like here, I'm going to use a brush, which just helps to get all the stain into every groove.
A water-based mahogany wood sealant gives a beautiful dark wood finish, while still allowing the grain to show. A sealant is necessary to protect the wood and to add to the project's longevity. 2 coats ensure proper coverage.
With the stain now dry and protecting the wood for time to come, all we need to do is secure it to the wall. So the 4 screw holes that we made earlier, we'll utilize those to mark off on our wall, put a plug in, and secure it using a screw.